You want to live in Portland, but you don't want to live in Portland? Well, in this video, we're going to talk about some of the more outlying bedroom communities in the region of Portland, but don't necessarily fall within the Portland metro area as it pertains to touching up against that urban growth boundary. These are communities that are outlying the Portland area, the Portland metro area, in a lot of ways very rural, definitely have a small town feel and environment. So different dynamic than the big city. We're getting into that right now. Hey, what's up everybody? This is Paul Clem with the Home Team Brokers coming to you from Portland, Oregon. If this is your first time to the channel living in Oregon, make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. We talk to people all the time who are relocating to Portland, moving to Oregon, and as real estate professionals, we love to help with that process. So if that's you, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, or click the link down below in the description of the video and schedule a Zoom call with us. Either way, we would love to help with your move to Portland. All right, welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. We've switched over to our map view here so we can look at some of the areas surrounding the Portland metro area that we'll be talking about in this video. We're going to spend so much time talking about Portland proper and the suburbs that are, just bordering Portland or kind of just on the outskirts of the metro area. This is where most people in the Portland area live. This is where most people end up moving to or living in when they're moving to Portland. So even within that kind of metro area, there are a ton of different options. Urban, suburban, even a little bit of rural feel. But what we're going to talk about in this video are areas that really are kind of true small towns within 30 miles of downtown Portland. So these are areas that, if we're looking at our map here, you can see this shaded area, or rather kind of white area surrounded by the green. That is all going to be the urban growth boundary. So this is by and large the Portland metro area. But if you look just on this kind of outer circle here, you have a lot of different little towns that have that green space in between. So, when you look at that, you can see that there are towns and suburbs immediately within the Portland metro area, of course, surrounded by Portland city limits, which is highlighted here. And then you have these outlying areas, which are really going to provide a much different type of environment for living. All of these areas have kind of a cute little downtown area, some bigger than others population-wise, and just have more going on as far as a local economy or kind of a local microeconomy in that way. So probably the biggest thing that these places have in common is their proximity to Portland, although they are very different in a lot of ways too. Again, small town living surrounded by rural areas. But in this video, we're going to talk about 5 different areas that really stand out. You do have some other even smaller towns kind of surrounding, and of course we can talk about that. If you ever have any questions about any of these areas, that's what we're here for. But we're going to talk about Forest Grove, Newberg, Canby, Sandy, and Estacada. So let's get right into it here. Okay, so first on the list is Forest Grove. Forest Grove is really close to Hillsborough here. So Hillsborough is just to the east of Forest Grove. Then you have this smaller area, Cornelius. And you can see you're much further west, of the Portland metro area than, Hillsborough or Beaverton or some of these areas on the west side. Oh, there I am right there. And what that means, I think, for a lot of people, first and foremost, geographically, is that you can get to this coastal range, and of course you can get to the ocean very quickly. If you're in Forest Grove, you can shoot up to Highway 26. You can get out to Seaside, Astoria, Gearhart, Cannon Beach, really popular areas for people to hang out. Or from Forest Grove, you can get right out Highway 6 to Tillamook. Netarts, Oceanside, Rockaway Beach. This whole northern Oregon coast region is really popular for day trips, weekend trips, overnight trips, week-long trips, you name it. and very well suited for it. A ton of really nice beaches, some towns that are really kind of tourism first, so kind of in a resort style in that way. You can rent condos, vacation rentals, Airbnbs, hotels, a lot of great restaurants. So being in Forest Grove gives you access to all of that. Although, you're not that far from downtown Portland. In fact, Forest Grove here is 26 miles from downtown Portland. And although the more direct shot is to come in directly through Beaverton, probably faster to go north and then, or go over to Hillsborough and then go north, and then out Highway 26 pops you right into downtown. But, on a good day with no traffic, you can do that drive in probably about 30 minutes, maybe 35 minutes. With traffic, hour and a half. So if you are planning on spending a lot of time in Portland, or you're going to be working in Portland, especially on the east side of the river, Forest Grove would not be a great option as far as commute goes. But there is a lot to offer here. Forest Grove is a popular town. It's a college town. You have Pacific University. You have the McMenamins Grand Lodge, which is one of my favorite places to go hang out. A Freemason Lodge. So this was the Grand Lodge, and actually they have the Masonic Grand Lodge rebuilt right here, just north of this McMenamins campus. But they do concerts out here now. There's a bunch of little bars around the property. I mean, it's really cool. It's a lot of fun. So it's a good place to hang out. There's about 25,000 people here in Forest Grove, so it's not the smallest town out there. There's definitely a good amount of people there and a community right there in Forest Grove. But again, you're so close to Hillsborough, you're probably going to find yourself going into Hillsborough quite a bit. There's some great golf courses out here. This is all in the Tualatin Valley, so the Tualatin River runs through here. These are the Tualatin Mountains, also known as the West Hills. So this is all Tualatin Valley, really from Hillsborough, starting in Beaverton, Hillsborough, and this corridor through here is what's called the Tualatin Valley. So that's the area that this is in. Another thing too about Forest Grove is you are really close to wine country. There is a viticulture region in here, and then extending all the way down, through McMinnville, through Amity, places like Dayton, all the way down through Salem. So this whole corridor here is wine country, but you have wineries and vineyards, all the way as far north as here, North Plains, Banks, this area. So a lot to do. If you're looking for an area that is not nearly as urban or even suburban, if you're looking for more of a small town feel, Forest Grove would be a great place. TriMet does run, so the bus line that services the Portland metro area does run out to Hillsborough. So you can take the bus to Hillsborough and then take the light rail all the way into Portland and all the way around the Portland metro area. So the accessibility is good. Again, you are a little bit further out, being 26 miles from downtown Portland. The median sale price for homes in Forest Grove is $520,000. All right, next on the list is Newberg. So Newberg is just south of Forest Grove, what we just talked about, but you can see it's on this kind of outlining circle here, these areas that we're talking about in this video. Newberg is a town that's really kind of similar to Forest Grove in size. You have 27,000 people, so a little bit larger as far as population. You're 24 miles from downtown Portland, so although you're slightly closer, the only way to get there, unless you came over to I-5 here into Wilsonville, is to go up Highway 99. And until you hit Sherwood, it's pretty open here. But once you hit Sherwood, you're hitting traffic lights all the way through, pretty much up until you can link up with I-5 and get into the city. So although it's a little bit closer, it probably on average without traffic is going to take a little bit longer getting into Portland than Forest Grove, but it's still not too far. And probably with traffic, kind of same deal, hour and a half to get into the city. Newberg, though, is really kind of the gateway to wine country. Forest Grove, a lot of great wine country up there too, but Newberg, Dundee, this region, this is where kind of the most popular and most prolific wine country in the state arguably start. So Dundee is a really cute little town. It's really just this stretch along the highway here. But you have this area is just lined with wine tasting rooms and great restaurants all throughout here. And then you can see in this area, Newberg down to Dundee, you get a little more elevation change here. So you have like Parrot Mountain in this area, which has some of the most kind of sneaky luxury real estate in the Portland metro area. Beautiful sweeping views. You know, you're looking at rolling hills, and probably in terms of luxury, you get enormous homes, but the price per square foot, when we talk about luxury, is probably a little bit better in this Parrot Mountain area. Your dollar can go a little bit further, even if you're going to be spending kind of, minimum $1 million, 1.5 to get in there. But Newberg, has a lot of different styles and types of neighborhood. Some new construction, definitely some older homes from when this was a tiny little small town. George Fox University is in Newberg, so you do, it does have a little bit of a college town element there. You can get down to McMinnville very quickly, which is another great town. So I think as far as your access to Portland and what Newberg offers, there is a lot to do. And again, we're talking about areas that are going to allow you to move to the Portland metro area or to Portland, but not be really in those true suburbia areas, or of course not in the city. And it's kind of interesting. We talk about this being kind of the gateway to wine country. Newberg was actually a dry town for a long time when it was founded. So obviously that's changed. It's not a dry town anymore. But yeah, there was a time where you couldn't buy alcohol or anything in Newberg. Nowhere served alcohol. So definitely a change there. So we talked about how Forest Grove, you're probably, if you're there, you're going into Hillsborough a lot. If you are in Newberg, you're probably getting up into Sherwood, even up into Tigard a little bit, or over into Wilsonville. These are kind of the closest neighboring Portland suburbs that really aren't that far. So again, it's not like you're completely isolated in any of these towns. There's always going to be some neighboring suburb or neighboring town that you can get to relatively quickly. The median sale price for homes in Newberg is $550,000. Okay, moving right along here, let's talk about Canby. So Canby is a town now over into Clackamas County. Forest Grove was in Washington County, where you have like Beaverton, Hillsborough. Newberg is actually in Yamhill County. So Yamhill County is down here in this area, and not part of that Tri-County Portland metro area. Again, although Newberg is very close. You're over into Clackamas County. You're really close to the Willamette River. You're just south of the river, and you're starting to get into the Willamette Valley here. So there's going to be some elevation changes at times. You can get some, houses that are kind of more set up on a hill, where you can get views and kind of, that different dynamic a little bit. But by and large, this area is very flat. So the Willamette Valley, a ton of farmland, a ton of very rural areas, and definitely more of a rural kind of feel as far as the environment that you're living in. Canby is a little bit smaller than Forest Grove and Newberg. There's 18,000 people here in Canby. Again, you're in the Willamette Valley, surrounded by agriculture, but it's really a pretty charming little downtown area. You can see kind of the geographical footprint of Canby is a little bit smaller, and you can see all of this farmland and agriculture surrounding it. There's no college or university here, so that's different than the first two towns we talked about. I think one of the things that brings a lot of people to Canby that don't live there or work there is the Clackamas County Fairgrounds. So the Clackamas County Fair is there in Canby, and that's something they do every year. That's a ton of fun. And Canby is 25 miles to downtown Portland, but your access point is going to be 99E, which ultimately turns into McLaughlin. So you have Highway 99 West on the west side, Highway 99E on the east side, follows along the Willamette River here. You get up into Oregon City, through Happy Valley, Clackamas, and then you can shoot over. Actually, probably you could go up 205, or you could go right up into Milwaukee, and that's actually going to be your most direct shot into downtown. So similar to Newberg, unless you got on 205 and then shot over, back west into downtown, if you're going up 99, this whole corridor through here, you're going to be hitting stoplights. Traffic can get a little bit heavy. And so again, on a good day, you can get up into the city in maybe 30, 40 minutes, but most days, during kind of rush hour times, morning, late afternoon, evening, it's probably going to be closer to an hour to get from Canby up into downtown Portland. The median sale price in Canby is $620,000, so quite a bit higher than Forest Grove and Newberg. And I don't know exactly what explains that necessarily. I think there probably are, some nice new construction in Canby. You also have some nice, big 100-year-old homes. You also have little cottages and bungalows. So I think the makeup, as far as the real estate overall and what you can get, is pretty similar to Forest Grove and Newberg, but the median sale price does tick a little bit higher. So that can say a lot of things. There's a lot of things that you can speculate about that. I think you can still get some relative affordability in Canby compared to some of these other small towns that are surrounding the Portland metro area, but definitely a noticeable increase when you look at that $620,000 number. All right, so next on the list is Sandy. So Sandy is pretty much due east of the city. Sandy's only about 12,000 people as far as population, so quite a bit smaller than the first three towns that we talked about. You're 27 miles from downtown Portland, and you're looking at Highway 26, kind of taking you all the way up and over into downtown, which, there's a lot of slowdowns through here. There's a lot of 25 mile an hour speed limits through here, a lot of traffic lights through this stretch of Powell through here. So if you didn't take that route, you could get up onto Interstate 84, go all the way north, cut over, and then get into the city that way. That's, I think, probably what most people would end up doing, but either way, you're looking at probably an hour and a half with some traffic, maybe 45 minutes, 40 minutes on a good day, when traffic is a little bit lighter. But we talked about Newberg and even Forest Grove to some extent kind of being the gateway to wine country. Well, if that's the case, Sandy is the gateway to Mount Hood. So Mount Hood, very popular ski resorts, Timberline and Mount Hood Meadows. You have Government Camp, where you have some condos and you're right on the mountain here, and some great restaurants in there. Mount Hood Ski Bowl, there's a lot of fun stuff to do, a ton of hiking. This is a very popular area for people to go, probably more so for day trips, but you can get cabins up here and rent things like that, stay overnight, stay the weekend. But this whole corridor through here really, once you hit about this Mount Hood Village area, all the way up to, Mount Hood Meadows over here up Highway 35. You're on the mountain. So if you're driving through here, around Thanksgiving or later, probably starting right about in this area, you're going to be, you're going to start seeing snow. So you can see this area right here where a lot of people go, Sandy, and then downtown Portland, really kind of squarely right in the middle of that commute. And anywhere that you live in the Portland metro area, really anywhere in Oregon, you're going to have great access to all the outdoor activities, all the beautiful scenery that people love about living here. But probably more so in Sandy than some of the areas that we've talked about. You have hiking, mountain biking, snowboarding, skiing, snowshoeing, all the things that you can do as far as kind of mountain activities. But you also have some great lakes up on the mountain. So, fishing, kayaking, paddleboarding, more so in the summer, obviously. But even in Sandy, you have the Sandy River, which is a really popular place to float in the summer as well. So Sandy really kind of has it all as far as outdoor activities. And again, you're not that far from the city. You're not that far from the metro area. I think if you live in Sandy, you'll probably find yourself going up into Gresham, Troutdale, these areas a little more than anywhere probably here on the west side. Sandy is also in Clackamas County, so it is in one of the one of the three counties that make up the Portland metro area. And if you happen to be stopping through Sandy, or if you're going there to maybe check it out, maybe look at houses, make sure to hit up Joe's Donuts, kind of a world famous donut shop. And a lot of people, when they're going up to the mountain, definitely stop in there and get some donuts, and it's great. So yeah, make sure to check that out. The median sale price in Sandy is $520,000. I think you can get some really nice, luxurious homes. I think you can get some starter homes, kind of some standard 4 or 5 bedroom family homes, everything in between. Sandy offers everything you could want, but it is smaller, again, geographically, population-wise, so there's less houses. So the market there probably is relatively competitive. I think a lot of people do like to live in Sandy that do a lot of snowboarding and some of those mountain activities that we talked about. But either way, Sandy's definitely a town worth checking out. Okay, last on our list is Estacada. And Estacada is probably the most different from the first 4 towns that we talked about. The reason it's on this list is because it falls right on this kind of belt line surrounding the Portland metro area as far as proximity goes. And so you're 29 miles from downtown Portland compared to 27 miles from downtown Portland in Sandy. But you are much more buried out here in Estacada as far as accessibility. I mean, you can still kind of weave your way up into the city, get up into the east side of Portland, southeast Portland, northeast Portland, very popular areas to hang out. Of course, downtown. But it is much more rural, much more small town living here in Estacada with 4,000 people population. But you are right on the Clackamas River. So I think, Estacada is definitely a place that's worth pointing out if you're looking for a really small town and the dynamic that a town of only a few thousand people can offer, but still being in relatively close proximity to the Portland metro area and to downtown Portland. But in Estacada here, you have Milo MacIver State Park, beautiful park all along the Clackamas River here. Clackamas River is really popular for floating. So in the summertime, you can float the river here. And I mean, the scenery out here is beautiful. I think one thing that, a lot of people wouldn't really know about Estacada is that you can get south here and go all the way down to Detroit Lake, which from here you can get down into Black Butte Ranch, Sisters, Bend, this central Oregon area that is a really popular vacation spot. But even in between there, you have like the Brighton-Bush River, and you have like the Bagby Hot Springs, the Brighton-Bush Hot Springs here. Not something that a ton of people know about throughout the Portland metro area. I think it's something that gets a little bit overlooked because it is a little bit further. But there's natural hot springs in here that you can go use. I mean, look, this guy's having a great time here. Get little cabins. You're right on the Brighton-Bush River there. I mean, it's super cool. And again, I think it's something that is a little more under the radar, even for people that have lived in Portland for a long time. So that's really cool. And again, if you're in Estacada, at least the access is right there kind of on your doorstep. You can also get south into Silverton, which is a really popular little mountain town. There's a couple breweries in there. And you have Silver Falls State Park, which has I think 7 or 8 different waterfalls. It's a really popular place to go hike. So it can get a little bit busy, but a really good way to spend a Saturday afternoon is to go down to Silverton, grab a beer, grab some lunch, whatever it is, and then go to Silver Falls, do the hiking, not necessarily in that order, but Silver Falls is really cool. You also have Mount Angel here. Again, just very accessible south of Estacada. Mount Angel does probably the biggest Oktoberfest in the state. That's something too that flies under the radar a little bit, but you have access from Estacada to these things that people in the Portland metro area don't really know about as much or access as much. And of course, in Estacada, you're still really close to Mount Hood. So, Sandy's right there on the main highway getting up to the mountain, but Estacada, you can get out to the mountain very quickly too. So if you're looking for something a little bit smaller, but want to be close to the mountain and all the things that you can do up there that we talked about, Estacada would be a great spot to land. And Estacada is in Clackamas County as well. So you are in one of the tri-counties in the Portland metro area. So in some ways, it still could kind of be considered in the Portland metro area, but it is outside of that urban growth boundary. Once you get out here, it's very rural, very quiet, very laid back, and just offers a totally different dynamic than any of the other areas that we've talked about, because in the areas we've talked about, you can get into a Hillsboro, a Sherwood or Tigard, into an Oregon City, into a Gresham very quickly. So you're right on the outskirts of kind of those most outlying suburbs in Portland. But in Estacada, again, you're much more rural down here. The median sale price in Estacada is $492,000. So that's actually the lowest on our list. And if this is an area that you are interested in, it may be a little bit more attainable if you look at the real estate prices. Similar to Sandy and some of the other areas that are a little bit smaller, Canby, it might be a little more competitive because there are people that are looking for that dynamic, but there's less houses to buy. So, the demand is there, but there's going to be less to choose from ultimately when you're engaged in a home search here. So a lot of what you hear, see, think about Portland, the Portland metro area, good, bad, in the middle, whatever it may be. If you're relocating here, there are other options. There are different types of towns and areas that you can live that, again, aren't necessarily at the forefront of what you see if you're doing research or if you've spent a little time in the area, now you're thinking about moving here. There are these towns with these different dynamics surrounding the Portland metro area that present a much different opportunity, again, than kind of what the stereotype of Portland is. Again, not saying that's good or bad or otherwise, but hope this video was helpful, and we really appreciate you watching. If this video did help you, provided some good information, make sure to hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.